Today we'll be continuing with chapters 3 through 5 on Vacation under the Volcano. Chapter 3, Gladiators. Jack and Annie hid behind a fruit stall. They waited for a moment and peered around the corner. "I don't see her," said Jack. "Who was she?" asked Annie. "I don't know, but she looks nuts to me," said Jack. "What's the book say about her?" said Annie. "She won't be in there," said Jack. "Just look," said Annie. Jack sighed and pulled out the book again. To his surprise, he found a picture of the old woman. He read out loud. In Roman times, there were people who could see into the future and warn others about what they saw. These people were called saber-slayers, soothsayers. "See? She wasn't nuts," said Annie. "She was giving us a warning, just like my nightmare." "Don't pay attention to that stuff," said Jack. "Soothsayers are from olden times. People from our time don't believe in them." "Well, I do," said Annie. "I'm sure something bad is about to happen." Jack sighed. "Come on, we have to keep going. We have to find the lost library. Then we'll leave at once." "We'd better," said Annie. They left the fruit stand and kept walking through the forms. Soon they came to a large building. Crowds were streaming in and out of it. "Is that a library?" said Annie. "Let's look," said Jack. He looked in the Roman book. He found a picture of the building and read out loud. Most people in Pompeii did not have a bathtub at home, so they went daily to the public baths. Not only did people wash at the bath, but they also swam, played sports, and visited their friends. "That sounds like going to the pool," said Annie. "But it's not a library. Let's keep walking." They kept walking until soon they came to a fancy building with large columns. "Is that a library?" said Annie. Jack found a picture of the building and read out loud. The people of Pompeii believed that many gods and goddesses ruled the world. This is the temple of Jupiter, their chief god. In this temple, they prayed to Jupiter and offered him gifts. Today, we call all the stories about Jupiter and other gods and goddesses myths. "My teacher read myths to us," said Jack. "I remember stories about Hercules and Apollo." "Yeah, my teacher read them too," said Annie. "I like stories about Venus and Medusa." "Hey, maybe the story we're looking for is a myth," said Jack. "Right," said Annie. "Come on, hurry. Let's keep looking." They left the form and turned onto a wide street. Jack gasped. In front of them was an incredible sight. Tall warriors with huge muscles were walking in a line. They wore fancy helmets and carried heavy shields. "Soldiers," thought Jack. Then he saw the warriors' feet were chained together and guards walking with them. "Gladiators?" he whispered. Scary things. Jack pulled out his book and found a picture of the strong men. He read out loud. Gladiators were slaves or criminals who fought in the amphitheater. They were forced to fight each other or wild animals like lions or bears. The people of Pompeii thought a gladiator's fight was great fun. "That's not fun," said Annie. "No wonder I think it's weird here." "No kidding," said Jack. "That's not like our time at all." Jack and Annie watched all the guards lead the gladiators away. They went towards a building that looked like an outdoor stadium. "That must be it," said Jack. "Let's check it out." "Oh, all right, but it's not a library," said Annie. He and Annie started up the street towards the building. A large crowd had gathered near the entrance. Men and women cheered as the gladiators marched inside. Jack and Annie started to follow them, but a guard held up his spear. "No children allowed," he said swiftly. "Run along now." "Yes, run along, run for your lives," came a raspy, hissing voice. Jack and Annie whirled around. It was the soothsayer. She was waving her bony finger at them. "Oh no, her again," said Jack. "Let's get away from here." He started to take off. "Wait," said Annie, "I want to talk to her." "Are you crazy?" said Jack. But before he could stop her, Annie ran up to the soothsayer. Jack watched from a distance as the woman talked to Annie. "Jack, come here, quick," called Annie. "Oh, brother," said Jack. He sighed and went over to Annie and the soothsayer. "Tell him," said Annie. The woman fixed her gaze on Jack. "All the streams of Pompeii have dried up," she said. "Remember the stream near the olive grove?" said Annie. "So what?" said Jack. "Maybe they just need rain." "No," said Annie. "There's more scary things. Tell him." "All the birds have flown away," the soothsayer said. Jack just stared at her. She said that all the rats left too," said Annie, "and all the cows are making strange noises." "But why?" said Jack. "The sea is boiling hot," the old woman said, "and the ground shakes and speaks." "See, I told you," Annie said to Jack. "But why are all these things happening?" Jack asked the soothsayer. "Because the end is near," she whispered. "We have to leave now," said Annie. "But what about the library?" said Jack. "What library?" the soothsayer asked. "Show her the story title, Jack," said Annie. Jack took the piece of paper from his bag. He showed a Latin writing to the soothsayer. "A book with this title is in the library in the town," he said. "So?" the old woman said. "So we have to save it," said Annie. She pulled out her secret library card. The soothsayer stared for a moment at the card and shimmering letters on it. Then she smiled warmly at Jack and Annie. "Yes, I understand now," she said. "The only library I know is in the house of the brutes." She pointed to a large villa at the end of the street. "Look there, quickly." "Will Brutus mind?" said Jack. "Brutus and his household are all in Rome," the soothsayer said. "That is merely their vacation villa." "But we can't just go in and take something of theirs," said Jack. The old woman shook her head sadly. "After today there will be nothing left in Pompeii," she said. "Nothing at all." Jack felt a chill go down his spine. "Go and get what you came here for," said the soothsayer. "Then leave at once." "Thanks," said Jack. He grabbed Annie's hand. "Come on." "Thanks," Annie called to the old woman. "You should leave too," she added. Then Annie and Jack started running to the vacation villa. They ran as fast as they could. Chapter 5. Books, books. Jack and Annie ran up to the front entrance of the villa. Jack pushed the door open. "Go in, hurry," said Annie. They slipped into the main hall. "Hello," Annie called. There was no answer. The place seemed empty. The main hall had a large opening in the ceiling. Below it was a small stone pool filled with water. Jack looked at it carefully. "Oh, I bet rain comes through that hole," said Jack. "Then it lands in the pool so they can use it for their water." He started to take out his notebook to make a note. "There's no time, Jack," said Annie. "We have to look in all the rooms for books." Okay, calm down," said Jack. He put away his notebook and followed Annie. "Books, books," she said, peering into a room off the hall. She moved to the next room. "Books, books." Then she moved on to the next. Jack trailed behind her. Even though she had already checked the rooms, he took a quick peek into them. He wanted to see what a house in Roman times looked like. He'll write notes later. The first two rooms had wooden beds. The walls had pictures painted on them. The floors were covered with tiny pieces of colored stone. The third room had a low table with silver dishes on it. 3 sloping couches were placed around the table. The couches were covered with pillows. "This must be the dining room," said Jack. "People from Roman times laid down on the couches while they ate. Did you know that?" He looked around for Annie. Where was she? "Jack, come here," Annie called. Jack followed her voice. She was in a garden off the dining room. It had a stone patio, palm trees, and grapevines. In the middle was a pond with a mermaid fountain. Goldfish swimming in the water. "Look, there's another room," said Annie. She moved to the door of the room off the garden. She opened the door and peeked inside. Jack looked with her. Along the walls of the room were long shelves with rolls of paper on them. "Rats," said Annie. "No books." She closed the door. "No books in the whole villa. Let's get out of here." "Just a minute," said Jack. "I have an idea." He pulled out his book on Roman times. He found a section called Writing. He read, "Romans used pens made of small reeds. Their ink came partly from the black ink of octopus. They wrote their books on scrolls." "Aha," said Jack. "That's a library of scrolls. I bet our ancient lost story is in there." That's all for today.